Hello, welcome to Studley News. Tonight we're going to be talking about the Final Fantasy VII Remake news announced at the Sony State of Play, and the two new mobile games that Square Enix announced from the same series. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. On with the news.
Alright, so Final Fantasy Remake Intergrade. They recently dropped a trailer in Sony State of Play. So what do you guys think about it? They showed the Final Fantasy V. Final Fantasy V. They showed what Final Fantasy VII Remake looks like.
Yeah, I was like, what? And the upgrade is phenomenal. There's a really good picture comparison that I've seen of just Cloud after he jumps off the train. And like when we saw Remake Part I, I'm pretty sure everyone here thought, wow, this looks as close to Advent Children as a video game could ever look.
It looks way better than Advent Children. So Advent Children is like what, a couple of years old.
Well, I thought the hair always was kind of like the hair was always just a lot less than Advent Children, I thought.
Yeah.
But now with like the improvements and the textures, wow. It literally looks like a CG movie today.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah, so the trailer was showing off I think improved lighting. They also showed off improved fog effects.
Yep.
Yeah, we got like we got the actual trailer, and then we got there's two videos that they did. They did an actual trailer, and then they did a features video afterwards, which kind of went into detail on what everything was. And that's where we learned about the fog effects and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which was good.
And also don't forget, there's going to be two different modes. There's going to be a performance mode and a graphics mode, similar to like Miles Morales. So the caveat to that is if you want 4K graphics, it's only going to be at 30 frames from what I understand. But if you want the performance version, you get 60 frames per second, but not in 4K. Yeah. But hopefully there'll be a patch to similar to Miles Morales to have both, or somehow have both.
One of the new features is like the photo mode. So the photo mode is something that's gotten like really, really popular like the last generation. Cyberpunk had it. Ghost of Tsushima
had it.
Yeah, Ghost of Tsushima had it. So now apparently Square Enix incorporated it into Final Fantasy VII Remake. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, technically they had that in 15 as well.
Not really. You couldn't take the photos yourself, didn't you? Prompto kind of took them during battle. And then you could look at
Didn't they? Well, maybe the PC version, like when they modded or PC.
I think they added that on later on. Yeah, and Nomura did clarify because people were asking in the Famitsu interview, is this going to be like Remind, which was like Nomura's last game to have a photo mode, and in Kingdom Hearts Remind, you could basically set whatever character you wanted in any map that they made available, and you could change their poses. You could add like you could have Axel, and you could like have a pose of him like shooting the Keyblade forward, and then you could put in like a magic effect, so it's like he's shooting fire at like Xemnas, and like you got like their damage poses and stuff like that. And he confirmed it's not going to be like that at all. It's going to be closer to that kind of Ghost of Tsushima. It's going to be closer to like Spider-Man PS4, where like in the game you can just stop and take a photo.
You can stop, and you can move the camera around, and you can
similar to Cyberpunk,
They didn't actually announce this in the trailer, but they announced this in the Famitsu interview. But they said there's going to be a few things that incorporate the adaptive triggers on the PS5.
Oh yeah,
controller.
Haptic feedback. Haptic feedback.
The haptic feedback. But they said the triggers in particular is like one of the things they did. But they were saying because like it's a PS4 game, they couldn't fully utilize it, but they're going to try and really put in like the 3D audio and all of the haptic feedback into Part 2, which is pretty.
Probably later patches, you mean?
No, they're gonna. No, I don't think they're gonna do anything more with Part 1. But with Part 2, they'll fully take advantage of it.
Okay.
Let's talk about the classic modes. I think they introduced like two different modes or something like that.
Well, the classic mode was in the base, but classic mode was classic mode was basically easy mode, where
Right.
so you could put the controller down and Cloud or whoever you're playing as, they'll fight, like they'll do their basic attacks, but you choose the ATB attack. So all they're doing is building up the ATB and guarding for you while you're choosing the ATB thing. And it's just way too easy because you can also just take control of the character whenever.
Yeah.
So you can immediately go out of like the classic mode stuff.
I think, well, I'm not sure if this was ever a complaint, but maybe the reason why they added that easy mode was for those who don't like the real time and it was too difficult for them. Because even in normal mode, certain bosses were pretty tough.
You got it. That's exactly why they added. They said for people that aren't comfortable with action games and prefer to be more calculated, this is why we've added it. But it just ended up being way too easy that nobody liked classic mode. So I feel like normal classic mode is gonna. I think it's their way of fixing classic mode. And classic mode was a last minute addition, if I remember correctly already. So it was kind of one of the things that they thought of last, and they tried to like squeeze in during development. But now that they've had a full year to think about it, I mean, I'm sure that they're going to fix it, and then in part 2, it'll be fixed even more, and it'll kind of be refined as the remake goes on and on.
So the built-in classic mode, it doesn't exist anymore. Now it's like normal classic and hard classic, right? Is that
no, it's the original classic mode and normal classic mode. They haven't put in hard classic yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think they would, but
yeah, I feel like normal, because when you play original Final Fantasy VII, you don't choose beginner, normal, or hard. You just have the one difficulty. And most RPGs that are turn-based are like that.
Yeah, and I feel like introducing like a classic hard mode would sort of defeat the purpose of a hard mode. If classic mode's already going to make the normal game easy, you're just going to make hard mode easy. So what's the point of going hard?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So another thing that they showed off in the trailer was the faster loading times. Now, did you guys have a problem with the loading times in the base game?
Only for the opening. Only the opening. Like basically when you jump from the main menu screen into the game, a little bit there. But when you're in the game, I didn't really experience much of a delay in game.
Yeah. Oh, so you mean when you actually load the game from the menu?
Yeah, yes. Or when you're like switching scenes or something like that.
Funny enough, that was the example in the trailer. Was they show from the start menu, the cursor goes down to load, clicks load, and then it selects a save point at the bottom and loads into the game. And I think it took 2 or 3 seconds.
Oh, that's perfect.
And I think
isn't terrible, to be honest.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because before I think it was like maybe 15, 20, 25 seconds maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was a little bit.
Wasn't there also like a little bit of delay when you go into the from when you're actually in game and you try to load the menu screen? Wasn't there like a little bit of delay there? Like 10 seconds roughly?
I remember it not being immediate. I remember it kind of taking like a second. Like you could nearly put your controller down and pick it back up. Right? Yeah,
something like that. So that I'm assuming that's probably faster too. Like instead of 10 seconds or 5 seconds, whatever it was, it's like a second or less.
Yeah, it's probably immediate now.
So all these PS5 upgrades, they're going to be all free for anyone who's purchased the PS4 version of Remake, right?
Yeah, and if you have PlayStation Plus in March,
yes,
Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 1 is the game.
Yeah.
My issue, so it's great that it's kind of great that like if you have PS Plus, you can get it for free and then you can upgrade, or if you get it on PS5, you get a little something extra if you purchase it on PS5. But if you do the free upgrade, you have to pay for that little something extra. And to me, when I saw that announcement, it really annoyed me because they announced a Yuffie episode of DLC exclusive to PlayStation 5. And if you buy the PS5 version of the game, it comes with the Yuffie episode. However, for us with the PS4 version, we have to pay for the DLC. And I'm kind of like, I know that sounds a bit entitled, but I'm kind of like, we supported this game from day one. We jumped in day one, bought our copy, and you're making us not only pay for a new system to experience this, but then we also have to pay for the DLC itself. And to me, that's just, it's a bit, I don't like it.
I get that.
It's like you're screwing over the you're screwing over the fans who were there from day one, and giving like the extra stuff to people who are only going to jump on now in June.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the way I look at it as a business aspect is those who didn't buy the game, it's like an incentive to buy it on the PS.
Yeah.
So it's the way you want to look at it.
It says here Final Fantasy 7 Remake costs $70 on PlayStation 5.
Oh, they're okay. So yeah, I have an issue with that. So like, okay, now games, especially for PS5, they're starting to charge $70 for games. I understand.
Yours weren't already 70?
No. When I got the other games, it was $60. So now they're charging an extra $10. But just having that Yuffie DLC, $10 for that DLC, I don't think it's worth.
Yeah, I mean,
an extra $10.
They're still pretty much paying $60 for it, and maybe the $10 is just for the the DLC. If you want to look at it that way.
Yeah, if they charge the DLC for $10, I suppose that's fine. Here in Europe, games have gone from €70 to €80.
Yeah,
which is
what?
disgusting.
So
that
like
is insane.
Yeah.
So what's up?
Because the annoying thing as well is the dollar isn't equivalent to the euro at all.
A euro's more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's like a $20 increase. I think if you.
Yeah, and I think we actually talked about this on a previous Studley News episode. I remember us talking about this.
Yeah.
On an actual episode.
It's the one when you covered the Final Fantasy 16. I think.
Oh,
right?
it is, because that was the PS5 review, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So if you wanna hear about all our thoughts on Final Fantasy 16 and the PlayStation 5, maybe give that video a like and a comment as well. Click. I don't know where I am, but I'm just gonna point here and I'm gonna say click here or here.
Yeah.
I'm on the bottom. Okay, click up here.
And while you're down there, be sure to hit that like button as well. Support us in the YouTube algorithm.
You can give a dislike. We don't. The Sudleys don't care.
No, don't dislike.
Dislike the video.
No, don't listen to him. I'm editing this out.
Dislike it. Give it as many dislikes as possible. Talos said it doesn't matter.
You guys mentioned the Yuffie DLC, so let's talk about that now.
I was just about to say we mentioned the Yuffie DLC.
So in the original game, she doesn't show up this early, but
oh yeah, definitely not.
Yeah, and
well, a lot of people, and I think we talked about this privately. I know we never talked about it in a video or anything, but a lot of people theorized how they could do the level reset in Part 2 is have Yuffie come in and steal all of your equipment and all the material.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, so that's the way I think this is going to end. I think this is going to end leading into the start of Part 2 where she steals all your shit.
That's a good idea. So that's why they're introducing her pretty early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, from what I understand too, it shows a little bit of like a backstory of like kind of Avalanche. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about her real quick. So like in the original game, right? She was a member of Wutai.
Wutai.
Yeah.
And I think they vaguely mentioned in the original game, but Midgar had like a war with Wutai, but they're really like fleshing out that part of the story in the remake like a lot more. This like Wutai war and Midgar and then Sephiroth fought in that war.
And they really that's like a big thing in Crisis Core as well. Like they even have a cameo from Kid Yuffie at the very start of it. Zack goes and does a mission in Wutai, and Kid Yuffie comes in, and then there's like a whole side quest line with her, where you're constantly interacting with Kid Yuffie. It's pretty good, but yeah, they flashed that out a good bit, that she was there and she tried to kind of become a fighter in that war, even as like a 10-year-old. She was very into that kind of thing
Yeah.
and trying to be a participant.
And like you mentioned, she's a material thief, and
Yeah.
like in the original game, she steals your material, and you gotta like chase after her in Wutai. And for the most part, she's still the same. Like her design too, it's pretty much unchanged from the original game.
Which is good. I like it a lot.
She doesn't have her big arm thing.
I think she does.
You know, she has. I didn't notice it in the design or anything. She does have an arm thing, but I think it's just like a glove. It's not like the big arm thing that she had.
The one where she's like back to back with that one dude?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, she does have it. You're right.
Yeah.
My mistake.
Yeah, that's the one thing that fans pointed out. It's her design pretty much stayed the same.
Yeah. It's quite nice seeing how the big arm thing translates, just because I never imagined that translating and looking nice.
Yeah, so it's just like like a giant like arm gauntlet or something like that, or sleeve.
Looks like a cast. Looks like a cast.
Yeah, it looks like a cast. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what's really cool? I seen pointed out on Twitter is that because when you first see her, she's in a Moogle outfit.
Yes.
And apparently she wears the exact same thing in Dirge of Cerberus.
Yes, exactly.
And the trailer, her movements in that very much mirror her introduction in Dirge of Cerberus in that outfit.
So I wanted to point out something interesting. There was like a part in the trailer when Tifa and Barrett are both there, and they're talking to Wedge. And Wedge is asking what happened to Cloud, and Tifa's like, "We lost them." Now, Chris, I don't know if you saw this interview, but I think somebody interviewed Nomura or something like that. One of them. And
I think I showed you this interview.
Yeah. And then they were talking about having like a chapter. They were planning on making a chapter, like a separate chapter that was supposed to be Tifa centered. And it was supposed to cover everything that happened between Cloud falling and then meeting up with Tifa again, and how she ended up with in the little cart headed to Don Corneo.
Yeah, it was going to be from when exactly what you said, and then it would end with her getting captured.
Yeah, because I've always questioned that when I was playing the game originally. It's like, how did Tifa get here? Like,
what happened? Like, for anyone playing the game for the first time, I mean, even the original game, it was almost kind of jarring. Like they didn't go looking after him. They didn't go look for him. Like how they weren't worried about Cloud at all. Like he fell and just
the last time you see Tifa, she's kidnapped in the back of like a wagon, and it's like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
what
not really.
To you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, not really kidnapped. She was like infiltrating.
She had a plan.
Yeah, she does it on purpose.
I mean,
like when you see her, you think she's kidnapped.
I mean, they briefly explain.
Break into the dungeon.
They briefly explain why, what they basically explain why she was where she is, but it was only like a mention. It was, like, oh, she has a plan to, get plans from that guy.
Right.
But
right.
yeah,
and it's interesting that the original Avalanche don't want to interact with Barrett's Avalanche.
Right. Yeah, that's also very interesting.
Yeah, and with that, they introduced a new character called Sono. I think is his name, is it?
You talking about the guy that's next to Yuffie? Was he in the original?
No, he's a new character.
He's a brand new character. And Nomura just kind of explained in the Famitsu interview, he said that Yuffie came to Midgar for materia, but then she ends up meeting up with this Avalanche group. And while Cloud Barrett and co are doing their own thing during the story, this is Yuffie in the background, and her version or the Avalanche group she's with Sonon, they're doing their own thing separately.
What you're saying isn't from the interview. Yuffie is secretly undercover as an Avalanche.
Well, she just kind of gets tied up with them. It seems that she didn't even go to be a part of Avalanche. She just went to get some materia, and then bumped into these guys and went on her own little adventure, which I think is a nice little storyline.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think she's part of Avalanche. I think she just happens to be there because she wants their material.
Right.
Or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
They do say, and we do see that Yuffie and Sonon are both in like a battle together.
Yeah,
in the trailer.
let's talk about that real quick. I noticed there were some interesting things about the battle. It looks like they can do like double team attacks now.
Ooh, yes. Mm-hmm.
From the looks of it,
I think so.
So, Nomura explained that the battle system for Yuffie is going to be slightly different, and they have said in the past that they're going to try and change the battle system a bit in like different parts, like they'll evolve it and stuff like that, and take different elements.
Yeah.
So this could be an example of what we're seeing of ideas for Part 2's battle system. This could be like a kind of a beta of that. Who knows?
Well, 15 had this double team, I guess what is it called?
Right.
Like attack. So I guess they're just kind of using some of that same engine in here, but just only for a specific character.
Yeah, because there was a moment when like Yuffie jumps on Sonon's spear and then Sonon launches her up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You
know? What Nomura says about that battle is you can't control Sonon at all, but you can only control Yuffie. Oh. However, if you go into tactical mode, you can give commands to Sonon through that. So even though you can't control him directly, you can still pick commands from the ATB gauge.
It's kind of like setting up like an AI command for them to do.
Yeah, which I mean, it's kind of like what we had already. I mean, like, yeah, we could run around as Barret. We just can't run around as him. We can still control what kind of
good point. Good point. Mm-hmm.
Which is good.
Basically, what you're saying is you can't switch to him, but you can make commands that they can do similar to what we already had before.
Yeah, we can control these ATB commands, so we can actually make them heal us and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the very end of the trailer. You mentioned how Yuffie's Moogle hood sort of ties into Dirge of Cerberus, but that isn't the only other tie to Dirge of Cerberus. So we saw at the end of the trailer Vice, which was the I guess the main antagonist to Dirge of Cerberus. It seems like they're really trying to incorporate like all the other spin-offs of Final Fantasy VII into like one whole universe.
Yeah. Well, they mentioned that too. Like, I forget, there was an interview like before the Part 1 came out where they want to integrate all of the games into one massive game. So Dirge Cerberus, Crisis Core before Crisis, all that
Advent
into
Children.
This Advent Children, etc.
Yeah, and we have already seen that with like Part 1 where we had elements of Crisis Core in there. There was like Kunzel, who was literally like a dude that used to email you. He was like Zach's friend. And like you saw him like a few times.
He was mentioned.
He used to always email you.
He was mentioned too in Remake.
Yeah, he was mentioned.
Hey, sit tight, man. I'm gonna go get Kunzel. I'll be right back.
Genesis gets like sort of a shout out. They don't say Genesis' name.
Well, they
mention Project G.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Type S, Type G soldiers. They mentioned that. Yeah.
And then from Before Crisis, that's where all of the stuff with other Avalanche comes from. That all started in Before Crisis, so it did. Because that's the Turks fighting the other version of Avalanche, the bigger Avalanche. That Before Crisis explored kind of the origins of Avalanche. So we've already had like elements of that in Part 1, which is really cool. And that they are trying to take from all the different stuff that they've done since Final Fantasy VII and incorporate.
But they're still adding their own twist to it somehow still too.
Yeah. Although, how did you guys feel seeing Weiss?
Well, the first thing I thought of was it's great that they're finally like sort of tying everything in together, you know. So it's not like I don't want Crisis Core and Dirge of Cerberus feeling like standalone titles. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, they take place in the same timeline, same story, but I do want like some sort of like connection, and they seem to be solidifying it now. Of course, Weiss was he was the leader of Deep Ground, so they're definitely gonna incorporate Deep Ground into the story somehow.
Yeah, didn't they have elements? There was like the chapter where you meet Wedge again. Wasn't there like lots of stuff from Dirge of Cerberus in that? Like lots of hints to Deep Ground, if I remember correctly.
You're
I don't
talking.
know. I've never played Dirge of Cerberus, but I remember people saying when you go underground.
Yes, you're talking about when you
to
rescue
find Wedge.
when you rescue Wedge. Yeah, there's
Yeah,
a couple of hints to Deep Ground. Yeah.
yeah. To me, I was like, well, that's enough. You don't need to
So
incorporate that. Wait until
if they're gonna
Dirge of Cerberus.
so if they're gonna involve Dirge Service, do you think they're gonna introduce Vincent in this episode 2?
No,
I don't know if you want to get into I don't know if you want to get into theories or anything like that.
We can if you want to. I feel like we're not though, because
No.
Vincent seems so far away right now. But the thing is, you never know like where they're taking the story. You know, it's. I mean, they're introducing Yuffie so early.
Well, so Nomura clarified Weiss in this. So he said the reason why they went for Weiss is because Sephiroth is the strongest character, and he's already in the base game. They just wanted to have like another big boss aside from Sephiroth, so they picked him.
That makes sense.
And he said that he's like always been curious of how a battle would play out with Cloud versus Weiss. And originally he was going to be a secret boss in the base game.
Ooh.
So he's not actually part of the story in this, I don't think. I think
Oh, you think he's like a battle simulator?
Yeah, he's part of the battle simulator.
Okay.
Nomura clarified that with he's like a secret boss. And that's all he kind of is. But the actual boss character for Yuffie in the DLC story will be a different person.
Okay.
Okay. Said for who else will appear aside from Weiss, you gotta wait and find out.
Let's do like final thoughts here. So storyline wise, what do each of you like expect, in terms of story for this DLC?
I think it's gonna be as non-intrusive as possible, and it's going to be sort of a filler episode. Like there'll be little things that you'll realize, and you'll be like, oh, that's kind of cool, that's interesting. But I don't think it's going to try and be incorporated into the story too much, just because it is at the minute only being released on PS5.
And did it ever mention? And did it ever mention how long it's going to be? Is it like an hour, 2 hours?
We don't know.
Yeah, so like depending on how long it's going to be, I'm thinking that it's more just going to like show off the gameplay and how the I guess part 2 is going to be like versus doing any big expeditions. They might do like a teaser at the end, but if anything, it's just more showcasing the gameplay. And that's how I feel it's going to be.
Yeah, I do think the ending of it will be the start of part 2 where Yuffie steals your materia. That's what I do think they could do.
And that makes sense to me.
Yeah. But how do you guys feel about the fact they've set this in Midgar? Because they could have set it somewhere else and started building up assets for part 2, but instead it's just all reused assets.
I mean,
it's just easier for them to do that. And also too, like they probably don't want to showcase any of the new stuff yet, and kind of surprise you with when part 2 comes out. Another thing I think about too is like because they already have this stuff in place, it's they're able to release this I guess episode a lot faster instead of building something brand new. If they were to build something brand new, it's going to take longer for them to release this episode, and then even more longer to release the part 2 because they want to show this one first. So since they already had Midgard in place, it was much easier to put her in there because they already had it in place and just release it much more quicker.
I do hope that like they do sort of cover that how Tifa ended up, infiltrating Don Corneo's mansion. Like I do hope they cover that part of her story. I feel like they aren't though, because it sounds like it's only going to be Yuffie centric. It would have been great
for this one. Yeah,
it would have been great to have like a Tifa only DLC.
Yeah,
and it was funny too.
They might.
It's funny too because Tifa's voice actress, she posted like an Instagram story with her in the studio, and Jesse's voice actress also posted like a picture of her on Twitter recording. They were both in the same studio. So there was a lot of theories going around that maybe there was like some sort of like DLC, like some Tifa related DLC that was in the works. But apparently I think they were recording for this. But both of them denied
I feel
it.
like it must have been for this.
Yeah, both of them denied it, but I think it's pretty obvious that they were recording for this.
Yeah.
So,
well, there's one little bit of news that we probably should mention. So, along with all these announcements, we learned as well with the Nomura interview that because Nomura is so busy with so many different projects, which we don't know about. This is just kind of cool. We don't know. We know there's The World Ends With You, there's Kingdom Hearts. I don't know what else is on his plate. There's a couple of Kingdom Hearts titles I think is on his plate, and The World Ends With You. But because of that, he has decided to step down as director of Final Fantasy VII Remake Part II.
oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, he's
That's
going to
big.
oversee it as creative director. So Naoki Hamaguchi is the person who's taking over. And to me, this is worrying. I don't know if it's going to be worrying to a lot of people, but to me, this is worrying because he doesn't have a lot under his belt. And what he does
experience
have under his
or
belt, yeah, what he does have under his belt isn't the best. I mean, I suppose we'll work forwards through his chronologically with his experience at Square Enix. He started with Final Fantasy XII. He worked on visual effects and real-time rendering, which fine.
Okay.
Then he worked in Final Fantasy XIII, and he was the lead event programmer, and he developed Crystal Tools, which was the engine, right?
Crystal Tools sounds like it, yeah.
Crystal Tools was the engine, the really bad video game engine. He was a development staff on that, and so he worked on 13 as a programmer and developer of that engine, and then he worked on the original 14, the one that was a complete
the 1.0
mess. Yeah, he was a programmer on that, and then he worked on 13 too. He was a programmer on that as well. He was working with Crystal Tools, and then he was a programmer on Lightning Returns. And then he was the project leader for Mobius Final Fantasy.
The mobile game.
And then in August of 2019, there was a restructuring in Square Enix, or not August of 2019, April of 2019, my apologies. There was a restructuring in Square Enix, and he was then brought on as co-director of Part 1 with Nomura. But that's...
okay.
That means he worked with Nomura for about 10 months, because development on Remake Part 1 would have wrapped around February of 2020.
Yeah.
So he has about 9-10 months of experience working under Nomura.
Yeah,
but now he's going to be a director.
Now he's the main.
From the sound of your voice, you're implying that that's not enough time to fully capture Nomura's
greatness.
style. Yeah.
I'm not really sure if it's not really more so Nomura's style. I know he was the lead project manager on Mobius, but I don't know. I just feel like a directing role
is too big of a step.
Yeah, especially for this kind of a game, you need somebody with experience, and Nomura's had that experience for years, and that he might be a bit too fresh for it. That it might be a bit and too much to handle.
And also, yeah, like I can understand he probably should have like a much smaller game to work on, not such a big anticipated sequel such as Part 2.
Yeah. So a directorial debut.
No, but you also mentioned that Nomura will still be overseeing the creative development, right? So he's not completely.
He still has the final say.
Yeah,
he's not gone, but he's going to be here in a smaller role at least.
Yeah, so he's still technically there. So
yeah,
But I can see
know.
I can see what you're saying. It does sound kind of worrying. You know, as a
Yeah, especially,
Well-
and I mean, I'm sure the guy has these degrees and all that, but Crystal Tools was such a mess, and so was like all the games he's worked on have been Crystal Tools, and they've
And
been
then, of
a
course,
mess.
4T
Yeah.
1.0.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that
All
was
right.
Crystal
Well,
Tools as well. So I don't know.
yeah.
I just thought that was some news to give. Of that's where, to me, last night we got so much of this news, and my mindset last night when we were getting all this news was, oh cool, Final Fantasy 7 on PS5. Oh, Yuffie DLC. They're not going to release that on PS4? That's weird. And then it was like, what was the next thing after that? Oh, then it was like, oh, cool. They're gonna remaster the compilation. Oh wait, it says a phone game. That's a bit weird. And then it was, oh, Final Fantasy 7 Fortnite. That's a bit weird.
Yeah, it just like
And then it was,
gradually.
Yeah.
down and down and down.
yeah, until it's like it was like GME stocks. It was like where I don't know. The future of Final Fantasy 7 is worrying.
But that pretty concludes it, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll definitely see you in part 2 where we discuss the Final Fantasy, First Soldier, and Ever Crisis.
And make sure you intergrade your experience on this channel and hit that bell or join the Discord. Just whatever.
Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed our content, you can support us by liking and subscribing. And feel free to leave a comment down below. See you guys in the next video.